Hello and welcome to this episode of What's Good Mzansi. It's me, your host, Jared Petzer, and today we are joined by Marks Maponyane. Marks, how are you doing?
I'm very well, and you, Jared? I hope you are staying safe and staying at home.
Yeah, I'm staying at home. The walls are getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. How's it going on your side?
All right, can't complain. Just making time to have a 35 1-hour exercise from day to day and just squeeze it in there. But I'm worried about my eating habits. I can't wait to jump on a scale.
Yeah. I've also been eating a lot, and I haven't been exercising. I've been sitting behind my desk and doing all these interviews and doing so much desk work. I really need to do something about getting my heart rate up a little bit. It's not healthy.
Yeah, you need to. You remember, there is no excuse for not exercising. I hear people saying, "I don't have time." You don't make time.
Yeah.
There's nothing like you don't have. You don't make.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Marks, tell us, what have you been busy with? I mean, before this Corona thing, what you been up to?
I've always been up to the usual stuff, running around at different corporates, doing motivation talks.
Yeah.
And not only that, but also with Radio 2000 on SABC. I've also been analyzing matches, and that's the biggest part of me that is missing. That is watching matches and analyzing matches. And watching matches across the world, Italy, England, Spain, South Africa, and was Germany. I mean, that's a big hole in my entertainment.
I've seen a lot of people have started watching all the pre-recordings. They've been putting on all the games that they've recorded just so it feels like they've got their normal routine.
Yeah, but funny enough, I don't watch those. You know what I'm enjoying? The highlights of the golden oldies. You know how your Ian Rush was scoring goals and how your maybe Thierry Henry and all that. It just brings back memories. Most of those highlights for me is, gee, my memory works. I remember that goal. I remember where I was watching this game. Kind of a thing. I mean, I'm talking 80s now.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, do you miss? You must miss playing a lot, right? I mean, it must be difficult, or not really. If you're used to it now.
No, not really. I mean, so many years now. What, 28 years of not missing it at all, because in between I had a lot of things to do, and especially because I'm not remote from the game. I'm obviously close to it, and from day one I've always been there, and also as an analyst. So it's not really a big miss. I think it was going to be a big miss if I wanted it and I was kept out of it, that kind of a thing. Yeah. But I've always been part of it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Marks, I mean, you and I had some interesting conversations the last time we spoke over the phone, and was related to just to the whole way that things were being handled with COVID and the COVID situation. I mean, are you still of the same views in terms of how things are being managed?
Things have been managed well. And from time to time, we do hear stories of people who are just taking chances and they're just deciding we're going to have a party. And last time I was going to a chemist down the road, and I saw a group of youngsters. I think they were about 5 or 10, and they just parked their cars and they were having a chat. And I thought, this is irresponsible. But then I realized they're young, they're getting frustrated. What was it? I think it was also between the ages of 18 and 22. And they were just feeling we have to meet just here. And it was next to a filling station that is also not working. It's closed because of COVID-19. Okay. And they just thought, let's just go out there. And also the many stories that we're hearing of people who just decide, no, this is not for us. This thing is not affecting us. I'm just going out there. I'm going to make sure that I have to make ends meet.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I mean, I think the situation is different for everybody. Some people are in a situation where they just simply cannot afford to be sitting at home, locked up at home. I mean, they've got to put food on the table and they need to survive. And it's got to be very difficult for them to be able to adhere to these rules.
Yeah, it's always it was always going to be difficult, especially in South Africa, because we do have people who are really the poorest of the poor, in the middle class and the rich, and you'll always have those rich and middle class listening and being able to afford to pile stock while everything hasn't started. But when the the lockdown starts, then it means these other ones have to wait until payday, and then they've got to go out when you say they mustn't go out. So there will always be a lot of reasoning. And also there's this situation where you say, please make sure that you maybe quarantined in a very safe place. And you can't be when you are sharing one room when you are 8 in a shack, you know.
Yeah.
In a family of 8 sharing one room, you can't. And it's always a challenge. And when I started following this, when it started in China and then I went on to other countries, Spain, Italy, I just thought of South Africa and thought, it's going to be a challenge. And the reality has dawned, or we are facing the reality now, because it's not going to always be easy. The biggest question though, Gerard, is how far are we going to go? Because capping it could be sort of something to work on, but to flatten it, you do have people who still have a negative mind to say, no, I'm not going to stay in here. And these people are always going to be more than the police availability or visibility. And they will always get away with it. And then once they thinking they're getting away with it, they are not flattening the curve at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a concern for me. I don't know if you saw these this mass evacuation that's supposed to be happening in some of the townships now. I mean, have you seen that, where they're supposed to be relocating a whole bunch of people to some more desolate areas to decondense? I think is the term they're using, decondense. And I don't know how that's going to work. And I wonder where we are in terms of this curve, you know, because also our testing is a little bit slow. You know, we haven't we're not really doing a lot of testing, not as much testing as we need to be doing. There's 58 million of us, you know.
Yes, in fact, I haven't seen that aggressive testing, because once we do aggressive testing, maybe we'll even get to the real numbers. Because the biggest question is, these people are still hanging around each other, and some are staying away or sort of social distancing. But yesterday, as I said on my way to the dock, I just saw a group of the street people, you know, your usual robot guys. And they were still there under the bridge. And I thought they were moved to a place of safety. Could these be the ones who just refused or what, you know? And we haven't really sort of cleaned our streets when it comes to people who, walking up and down, wandering, put it that way, or jaywalking for that matter. In fact, on the highway, I met 2 guys who were pulling the guys with the recyclable bottles and all that. They were pushing those recycle trolleys. And I thought, these guys, when they pushing this, don't they notice that there is nobody? Even if you haven't heard of what's happening, can't you just ask yourself, why is there nobody here?
Shame, you know. I think it becomes it's desperation. I think guys are just trying to survive, you know. Sure, man. We've got a lot of
during the desperation.
Yeah,
a lot of challenges.
Sorry, what were you saying, Mark? I cut you off.
No, I was saying a lot of challenges, because also I knew that we'll also have to have this problem of making sure that we take off all these beggars from the streets. But then where do we put them? Because where we put them, it can also not be that isolation. They will be very close to each other, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
I realized they were erecting tents here and there, and also putting them in rooms. As you saw in US, there's a parking lot that they allocate them. I'm sure you've noticed that.
Yeah.
Or you've heard that story. Yeah, and then they put mattresses there, and I thought, that's an interesting one.
I saw in Goetesig, there was a whole bunch of these guys that were stuck together, but they've got like armed forces that are keeping them into this quarantined area. It looks very hectic. It's like a concentration camp, and apparently they had their first death at one of these things. I mean, this is like, it's quite serious. They were in tears, you know. These guys were like in tears. They weren't given any proper they weren't given tents or mattresses or blankets or proper food or anything like that. Just basically crammed into this thing. It's a heck of a concern. I mean I wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah, in fact, you also can recall that even the guys that were moved from the church in Cape Town, you remember those guys? They say it was better out there in the streets and inside the church than where they are now. they're not happy with the big marquee that they're staying in. And there will always be a problem. But the solution is we need to just make sure that we focus on making sure that everyone is checked. Once we all checked, we will now know what numbers we're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, Marx, I mean, where do you think things are going in terms of the country? I mean, in terms of us trying to get things going and sort of trying to fix the issues and the disparities that we have there. Where do you think we are there?
I think we're facing challenges instead of solutions. I mean, just when we were thinking of solutions or working towards solutions, and then came the biggest Moody story, you know, and Moody downgrading us, and in fact putting us to nowhere. Just that just didn't help our cause. Now, when we come out of this lockdown, we have to now start working on the economy. And then making sure that this whole thing doesn't come back again. Because you remember, there is also this possibility of once you have recovered, does not necessarily mean you may not maybe be infected again, you know? Yeah. So we need to make sure that we clean the situation, and then we can start focusing, because you can't be leaving these bits and pieces behind. The third part, though, is that we are focusing on the reality. And the reality is we cannot get rid of winter. Winter is around the corner. Yeah. We're sitting in April, May, you know how it is in this country. And next month onwards, for the next 2 months, make it 3 months, it's really going to cause a lot of desperation to say, am I just coughing, or am I infected? You know, we're going to be having a lot of people clutching at straws. Yeah. So we haven't started rebuilding the country. Let's focus on this one thing at a time. I think we cannot try to do both. If we can focus on this and then come out clean, you know, literally and figuratively, come out clean. And once we clean, we can resume everything, get back to our desks, and get back to the streets and everything.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine that had a sore throat and some sniffles the other day, and they went straight onto the COVID website. They did a check, and they had 3 of 6 symptoms. And I think to myself, every time somebody gets any sort of symptoms now, they're going to be straight to the emergency ward. You know, do I have COVID-19? Am I suffering from corona?
You know, strange you say that. I was coughing, 2 weeks ago, and I just played a video of the symptoms. And I thought, no, but I only have 1 of the 6. I'm only coughing. But then, funny enough, because of you know, uncertainty, I didn't have a good night's sleep. I in fact had a sweaty night because I had this wild thoughts of, no, I cannot be, I cannot be. You know, when you don't wish that to yourself or to anybody, you know, for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, gosh, it's scary. I wonder. I mean, I'd imagine that it's going to take some getting used to, you know, months and maybe years down the line, in terms of how we communicate with other people, how close we get to other people, our traveling habits and our hygiene habits. It's a very strange time for us. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, there's one thing that you and I should also focus on. You know, Jared, I always say, yes, there is always, especially because of the background that one is from, that is the motivation talks. Yeah. Yes, there are challenges. Let's not ignore them, but the solution. And I can share the solutions, little solutions that I'm also practicing with the people, the ones that we talked about, that training routine. Yeah. And just be busy, do something, just do something. And funny enough, I'm even watching cartoons. Can you believe it? And I laugh. I'm enjoying cartoons. You know, it just shows that something on TV. I'm not going to sit there and worry and wonder what happened to soccer. I know what happened to soccer. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Now let me enjoy what is there and put myself in the minds of the small ones. Yeah. And say, why are young ones fascinated when watching this? Because most of us are forgetting that we were once young. And all of us tend to worry a lot when we're older. Yeah. Why don't we put ourselves in the minds of the young and say, let me enjoy this and see what I used to enjoy? Well, I wouldn't say that, because when I was born, there was no television. But I just was thinking, what are these youngsters enjoying, you know?
Yeah.
And it fascinates me nowadays to watch cartoons. And I look across and look at the youngster, and you realize that the youngster is just so serious
Yeah.
and thinks this is possible. I think this is not possible. But
Yeah.
the youngster doesn't think the way I'm thinking, that no, it's not possible
Yeah.
that this ant can eat an elephant. So those are the kind of things that makes me while away time, you know, while waiting for the right announcement.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I love that sentiment because kids have got this, you know, even though they've got their own little issues that they need to deal with, by and large, they don't. You know, the world sort of passes them by and they get to focus on these things and they still live so much in their imagination. And you know, you look at them sometimes and you just think to yourself, geez, you guys have got it made, you know. I mean, like, and we need to do that sometimes as adults. I think we do. Sometimes we know that we've got all these challenges. We know we've got all of these issues that are sitting there, but do we have to constantly focus on them? I don't think we do. I think know that they're there, work towards addressing them, but also give your mind some peace and quiet.
Yeah, in fact, interesting enough though is that you know that exercise that that was made with a group or a classroom full of adults and a classroom full of kids. Put a piece of paper and a pencil on their desks and in front of them, and they realized that the guy who was running the exercise was that after 15 minutes he would walk back into the room, and the adults were anxious and thinking, why is this guy keeping us waiting? And when he got into the youngsters or the kids room, he found that they have drawn all their dreams, the aeroplane and the fast cars and everything. So we have stopped dreaming. We just always wondering and complaining.
Yeah.
And this is the time to continue with our dreams if we have last dreamt before you had problems.
Yeah.
You know? So we have to go back to the basics.
Absolutely.
I think this whole thing has caused a lot of people to really take stock of themselves, you know,
Yeah.
myself included, you know, where you think, why last did I do this? I mean, there are things that I'm thinking, when last did I do this? Or things that you never thought you could still do, or you have never thought you should be doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, a simple thing like, which is dangerous though, simple thing like climbing on top of the roof and clean the gutters. Clean the gutters.
Jump into the pool or what?
No. Just clean the gutters. Yeah. No, jumping into the pool is a no-no now. It's a bit cold.
Yeah. It's a bit cold over here as well. We've got, unfortunately, there's a problem with the water pipes here, so I don't have a choice. I've got to jump into my pool, and it's freezing. So freezing.
Oh.
Yeah. Mark, tell me, are you finding a way to keep yourself, to keep your motivational speaking going now, and using tools like Zoom and stuff, or has it pretty much come to a halt?
It has really come to a halt because also once I noticed that a lot of people need to bond. That's the key word. A lot of people need to bond. So you don't want them to also be bombarded by technology. You know, I think this whole period is meant for bonding, but a lot of people tend to end up spending a lot of time, or maybe even half the day, if not the whole day, on cell phones and iPads and everything.
Yeah.
And you think, no, but this is not what it's meant to be. I mean, you know how many times and how often during the year under normality, where I have been in malls, and I realized one or two of the 4 kids in this family, including maybe one of the parents, if not both, all holding a gadget in a dinner or at a dinner meeting in a restaurant somewhere. And I'm thinking, but this is not why they should be together. You know? And all those things to me have always looked abnormal. And I'm sure this is the right time to normalize these things. So once you start bombarding them with that information, I think they end up in a situation where they just say, did you see what Jared had to say? Did you see what Mark said here? Did you have a clip of this? You know, and think, okay, I'm sure a lot of these are circulating even in your area where there are so much, or there are so many sort of pictures and videos and everything that has to do with either COVID or all the jokes around.
Yeah.
And you always share them. And that also takes time. If you look at how much time you've spent on the phone while working, And the time we spend on the phone now, I think for other people is now astronomical, the number of time they spend on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm sure literally out of 24 hours, I'm sure it's about, what, 22 hours
I'm telling
for
you.
others.
You know, on my device, I mean, because of the nature of what we've got, the social media platforms and everything, but I'm spending between 6 and 8 hours a day on my phone. That's recorded time on the phone. That's like a lot of screen time. I mean, if you think about it, that's and that doesn't take into consideration when you close the phone and open the phone. I've got a counter on my phone. I've actually checked. It's 6 to 8 hours a day.
In fact, that excludes when you are now watching it at leisure. That's at work. So it goes back to my 22 hours, 20 hours.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's not healthy. Yeah? It's not healthy for us to live like that. I think we've become so far removed from what we, you know, I remember when I was a youngster, I used to go, I mean, my life was spent predominantly outside, you know, outside, getting up to all sorts of mischief, you know, climbing mountains, going fishing with my dad and stuff like that. And that stuff just doesn't happen anymore. Eh?
Yeah. But also we can't ask them to do that. Remember, they have to stay inside.
Yeah. It's also a different time we're living in, I guess, you know. I mean, like you worry if your kids go out and you let them out, and it's just, I mean, I was brought up on farm areas, you know, so it was quite safe for us there. And we used to just go and chill and milk cows and go and cause nonsense in the villages and stuff. That's what we used to do. And it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, interesting you say that. You know, during those days, fortunately, some of us have always had this, but in a different way. That is lockdown.
Yeah.
We had lockdown during those days of curfew. Curfew days during apartheid. And we would be told by 5 o'clock or by sunset. We don't care what time sunsets in your area. By sunset, then this is it. You know?
Yeah.
And we would just be locked down at night most of the time. But then there would be dangerous days where it would just be random shooting and you just clear the roads, you know? So now it's comfortable because it's for a reason, it's for a good cause, it's for all of us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and I'm just thinking, I've been now through 2 different curfews in life. It's the third one.
Wow.
Yeah, the peaceful one and the unpleasant one.
Yeah. But at least everyone's getting a taste of the medicine this time.
Oh yes, yeah. Even though it's not that harsh. Yeah. It's a quiet one.
It's a quiet one.
We call this one, we call this one a quiet storm.
Yeah.
Our storm was noisy.
Yeah. Jeez, today.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating. I had a long chat with Kuster Jack on one of my shows the other day, and it was just amazing just to listen to him, you know, because he was involved with the 1970s with the Uprising, and I mean, he was also born in the 50s, and it's just like, it was just fascinating to listen to the journey of people's lives during those times. I mean, it's almost unbelievable. It's almost unbelievable that people that have had to go through those sort of struggles. It's insane. It's insanity when you think about it today. It's insane.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, I remember everything because obviously I wasn't young at the time. 76, I was in standard 6. You know, we were calling it standard 6 those days, you know, or form 1, kind of a thing. So we were really the affected group, you know, who did not do the form 1 because of the uprising. So we had to, I mean, I can recall, just obviously a little bit of that history. I can recall where literally every subject, whether it was science, maths, everything, was in Afrikaans, you know? And one had to know all the terms, you know, geskiedenis and all those wiskunde. And I thought, gee, where are we going with this? And that's when it all started.
Yeah. I can't even understand Afrikaans properly today. It's a language I've never really gotten my mind around. So I could imagine how challenging it must have been, you know, to be speaking your mother tongue, and then all of a sudden you got to speak this language that is like bizarre. I mean, for lack of a better term. I mean, it's a strange language for somebody that doesn't speak it, I'd imagine that.
Yeah, in fact, funny enough for me, it was good as a subject or as a language in the subject, but not to run every subject or every, you know, and you think, no, it doesn't work like that, because I never had a problem with it. In fact, at some point I was speaking good Afrikaans. I had good marks in Afrikaans at school, But the most important thing was just good as a language, that's it. But you can't now start doing the multiplications.
Yeah, science and
It's a
everything.
different thing.
Yeah.
No, it's different. And the angles and everything, like geometry in Afrikaans, and everything was just now becoming a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Crazy times. Martin, I mean, do you think that that's, I mean, how did you get involved in football? Was it just always a passion of yours, or is it something that you just, I mean, that's how you used to spend your days? How did you get involved in it?
It's very interesting that it started just as a lifestyle. You know, lifestyle. I was born in the township in Middlelands, in Soweto.
Yeah.
And we would be kicking the ball around. And why kicking the ball around? Because it was the cheapest means of entertainment as a group of boys. And cheapest means of entertainment, because if you buy a plastic ball, you are a hero. But if you take a pantyhose and stuff it with some soil and other things, that will even be like, wow, this guy is trying. We are going to play at Max's area. But once you bring a proper ball, you are the man. And that is why when we grow up, we always called the cheese boy would be the guy in the township, because we were not even being able to afford a cheese. A cheese boy would be a guy that when the parents are calling him, he would take his ball with, and then the game is over. So we think, yeah, he's a cheese boy. He can afford a soccer ball. So when his parents are calling him, the game is over. Yeah. Because he doesn't want to get somebody to remain with this ball or assign anyone to bring it with. No, you know, it was a treasure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I grew up in that era and enjoying it and knocking it, putting the ball in the back of the net, and then started at the age of 6, and it became formal. The local old man opened a club called Submarine, which obviously from the name you know where it is now. It must have sunk. So that team is not there anymore. 1968, I played for Submarine and started playing proper football. Start playing from 10 o'clock in the morning until 2:30, 3, and in different divisions. And then comes the A team, who were the big up guys and the stars who were wearing soccer boots now. Because at the time we were the small ones who were playing with crib bandages or barefoot, you know. And then it went to be a situation even at school, at lower primary, higher primary, and high school. And at high school, I happened to be in a high school that was very hectic. The principal there was just unbelievable. Kit Lekhoale, may his soul rest in peace. That man loved sport. It was one of the few schools where we would even play the sports that you wouldn't think they played in the township. We had a rowing team. We had a tennis team. We had very interesting, like funny sports that were not even seen to be the township sports at the time. I'm talking, late 90s, early 80s, you know? And our school was doing well in all those sporting codes. But then the interesting thing about football in particular is that the same school produced 4 professional players in 1 year. 2 to Pirates, 1 to Chiefs, and 1 to Moroka Swallows. And that's what our school was made of. Players that could play. In fact, not even 1 to Pirates, 2, 3 to Pirates, you know? I mean, that's 5 players in one school. And that's how good the school was. And we were famous from that, but also as amateur teams locally. We were fortunate because the same bunch of people that were playing in that school, we were also belonging to the same club. So we had that extra advantage.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Sport is just, it's the most amazing thing, because it gives you, there's 2 things that it does. One is that it brings people together, and then the other thing is it also gives you like a lot of purpose. You know, you've got an objective. The objective is to get as good as you can and to win if you can. And I think that's I reckon that's why Nelson Mandela was always so fixed on sports, because of how it just used to bring everything together.
Yeah, in fact, I've learned a lot from sport. And if somebody says to me, besides just kicking the ball, what have you learned? I've learned so many sort of human relations, you know, and the ups and downs, and how to take the good with the bad. You know, in a sense where, Gerard, you play in a cup final and you know you were not good enough. That is your team. You know your team was not good enough. I would appreciate that silver. I think you must have noticed when players are given a silver medal. Did you notice that they don't hang it all the way to the end of the podium? They just let it being hung around their necks and then take it out and hold it in their heads.
Yeah.
And those who won the gold are always having that gold hanging on their necks. But the silver ones don't have that.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that if you didn't deserve to win, just be proud of what you deserve. You deserve that silver. Wear it, you know? Yeah. Because there are times when you are going to put more effort. You learned from the final. Then the next final, you work hard to win it. And you don't get jealous of opposition. You appreciate what they have done. They have outsmarted you. You are not good enough on the day, but better luck next time. And those are the kind of things that one has learned. But also the teamwork and also the relations. Where you humble yourself, where you become part of the group, instead of when, let's say you're playing for Orlando Pirates and the club has given the squad of 35 black and white tracksuits and white and black tracksuits. On the weekend, when the coach says, this weekend, everyone must be wearing black and white, and you come wearing white and black because you are the Ronaldo or the Messi of the team. You know, I mean, those are the things that you learn to say, even if I'm the star of the team, I need to look like everyone. You know? And also, even if you are doing well and you are being praised and you're putting the ball in the back of the net, you must also remember that these days will be over. And these days are made possible by the ones around me. You know, appreciate working with people around you. So there are so many aspects that one has learned over the years, you know.
Amazing. Yeah. So I mean, it's humility, it's honor, it's respect, it's discipline, it's all those really important things that are key to life, right? I mean, it's those are
yes. In fact, the most important thing is that you said is respect. You know, and loyal. You have to be loyal to your team. You can't be disloyal to your team because obviously you are going to be seen to be divided. You know. In fact, one thing that one have also learned is that when you are going through a hard time, when opposition is on top of you, and some people might find this very interesting, is that we were always saying, guys, even if we are under pressure, the worst thing that we can do is to scream at each other because it's adding or motivating or adding to an advantage or motivating opposition to say, oh, we've got them where we want them. They are screaming at each other. You know? And it teaches you these things because also when you grow up, you end up being in a relationship and you end up in that relationship saying, let us work on these things. Even if we have our differences, let's not scream in front of people. You know, you learn all those etiquettes, you know, because that's when you realize somebody will take advantage and say, oh, okay, that relationship is not that exciting. I can be part of it. You know what I mean? I can be part of it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And because you have let the enemy or the devil know that you are not, all is not cozy. You know? So those are the small things that people think, nah, it's just a game, week in and week out, you're kicking. But it's not the point. And you know, the other thing that is very key about this game that one has learned is that you could sometimes be stuck in, let's say, Gabon, which was the case. You're stuck in Gabon, it's 42 degrees for the next 5 days or 10 days that you're there. And you've got to be training in that 42 degrees. You've got to work hard for each other to win that game. And we did win that game. But the key thing is, what happens next? Do you tolerate each other? Because then the following week, you're not in Gabon, you're in Zimbabwe, and then we would be in Uganda. And then you think, guys, I can't be stuck with these people. But you don't think that. You don't call them stuck, you know? You are saying, I am now looking forward to enjoying with my friends and conquer Africa. And that's how it happens, you know? Because you are easily going to be bored when you are not looking or when you are not opening your mind to your trips. I mean, with SABC over the years, one has been everywhere for a long time.
Yeah.
And in particular, the longest time I'll never forget is 3 months on the road ahead of the World Cup. Well, including the World Cup. The 3 months is including the World Cup. You know, after the last game against Netherlands here at FNB, 2 months before the World Cup, we left for Argentina. We left for Jamaica.
Yeah.
And then we left for Germany. And then finally in France, in Vichy, where the team was based. And you think, hey, I knew I would be away for 3 months. So while I'm living here, I must just focus on what will be happening every day of the 3 months.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how you enjoy. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. But fortunately, some of us, when you come with the lockdown of this nature, we're smiling because we've been away for a long time. I mean, at some point, I always say the worst trip for me was being in Egypt for 34 days, you know? So don't tell me about the lockdown of 21 days. Egypt, 34 days. Go mad.
I guess the other important thing is that we must always be having fun, right? Because the moment you take fun out of it, I mean, along with your discipline, you have to be having fun, because without fun, I don't see how you can succeed. I mean, you know, you've got to stick to if there's no joy, if there's no passion inside of you for something that you're doing, you're never going to be really good at it.
Yeah, in fact, that key word is fun. You know, you have to make the best out of every situation. Make it memorable. Don't be there and don't make a difference. You know, it's like being on the field. Yeah. You're there and what? Are you just an 11th player, or you are making a difference? Yeah. So if you have mastered that technology of going out there and having fun, but not breaking the rules, it's very important. I mean, it's like why I brought up Egypt, of all the places I've been to, like your Burkina Faso and all that, is simply because in Egypt, you cannot afford to drink. Yeah. Simple as that, you know, simple as that. So we knew when we landed there, when we're going to, after the game, when we're going to have when we stick around in the bar, guys, we'll meet at the bar. Guess what we're doing at that bar? We're drinking cold drink or tea or coffee. I mean, for 34 days, so yeah, people are frustrated because the alcohol is taken from, and I'm thinking 21 days. It was taken from some of us for 34 days, you know? And we just really, I'm not home, these are the rules, you know? Yeah. In fact, where was this? In Saudi Arabia, the the Confederations Cup in 1997. You remember 98? South Africa played in France, the World Cup.
Yeah.
1997, we played Confederations Cup in Saudi Arabia. And we landed there, and I took a bottle or two of red wine, thinking, oh, I'm going to have fun there. You know, I believe and read that you can't drink alcohol there. So I thought I'll bring my own because there won't be alcohol. And I got to the airport. What's in your bag? Just a few things. Can we check? Yeah, no, you can check my bag. The guys checked the bag, and then they found 2 bottles of red wine. Took me to the toilet, and then they just spill it in the drain, down the drain.
Oh, no.
And they got me to sign a form of a warning of some sort to say I was caught in Saudi Arabia with wine, you know. But the guy was asking stupid questions like, what is this? Is it alcohol? Yes, it is alcohol. Oh, what is it called? Wine. Oh, okay. Why is it red? Do you mix it with a beer? I mix it with a beer. And then I realized, no, I cannot be drinking in this country. So after that, I mean, you know that you spent 3 weeks in the Confederations Cup in Saudi Arabia. You spent 34 days in the African Nations Cup in Egypt. So alcohol, it's not even here when it can be accessible. You just don't care when other people are really frustrated. So you learn to adjust. Just confirms what you were saying, that one learns a lot from this game. It's called a game, but you learn a lot in life, and it prepares you for life in a way.
Yeah, it's so important, I think, for our kids to be involved in sports. You know, I mean, because it teaches you so much along the way. We don't have subscription anymore in South Africa, and not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think you need it per se when you're looking at when we get our kids involved in sports. We're getting into working teams. We're getting them to listen to their coaches. We're getting them to make sure that the uniforms are tidy, that they get to the games on time, that they're eating properly, that they're sleeping properly. It's all these basic things that we need to be sustainable adults when we grow up.
Yeah, in fact, you've summed it up all. And the one important thing is just listening to the coach. That one is over the years. You know, I mean, you can imagine how many coaches have I gone through. And some of them, I still remember their coach. How's that? Just good message, you know? I mean, like one of them that I always say to a lot of guys that, you know, I've once had a coach that said something very profound. And may his soul rest in peace, that Eddie Lewis. He once said, if you can't say anything good to your teammates, say nothing. I'm in charge. If anything bad has to be said, I am in charge and I can say that. But yours is just to play, focus on yourself and help in the team. And I thought, gee, this is very interesting. You know, if you can't say anything good, say nothing. Yeah, and those are some of the things. In fact, one of them also, that is Jeff Butler, once said, you know, even if you don't respect the person, respect the chair. I mean, that to me, I mean, it was loaded. If you think of it, it's like, but this guy, I've played with him and he's now my coach. He wants to tell me what to do. You know, no, you obviously don't respect him because you think you were a better player than him. But he's got leadership attributes that you don't have. You know, and he's a leader, fortunately now. Your records and your ability does not necessarily make you a leader or give you the right to disrespect him. He's in charge now, unfortunately. And those are some of the things that players don't realize, that the same guy that you play with that is aging could be your coach somewhere down the line. So the young and the old have to respect each other, because any good team is made out of this solid foundation, I call it. A balanced foundation. You can't have a team of youngsters only. Otherwise, you just have excited nerves running up and down. And you look at the scoreboard, they're losing 10-0, but they're sweating all of them. So you've got to balance the team all the time. Obviously, you can also have old legs, because they will just be doing everything in slow-mo. And people will be wondering, is this game live or what? Just like the balance, you know, the elderly citizens in the team would stop the ball and then stop the pace of the game and find a gap, play the ball in the gap, and the youngsters would run into those gaps. You know, that mixture. And any successful team, you look at anywhere around the world, you'll always have your Gerard PK who will be with the youngsters. You know, you've got to always need that experience, because you always rub off from them.
It's a metaphor for the country, really, isn't it? It's really a metaphor for a nation, actually. You know, I mean, you can apply that principle to absolutely every single thing that you do in your life, including running a country.
Everywhere, as I said to you, that's the interesting part of football. Obviously, when people see one, they think, oh, football, kicking around, put the ball in the back of the net. No, I always say to them, it's not about that. Especially in my talks, it's not about that. It's about life skills that one has learned over the years. You're really learning life skills. And even the teamwork, and also making sure that you keep the focus and keep the message in like one message, not different messages. You know what is like, for instance, if you focus on a team that is struggling, you get there and you say, the team is struggling, what could be the problem? The coach will defend the team, protect everyone around. And then you'll find some players who are playing regularly who would be saying, we are going to turn the corner, you know, the obvious statement, you know. And then you get the ones who are not playing. Then they will say, yeah, but this coach must go, or this coach doesn't know what he's doing. You know, there will always be that. And they will even tell you deeper secrets of what, who fought with who where. You know? So those are the things that you now learn from the game and say, oh, okay. For this team to be successful, you always have to speak in one language. Make sure that we all respect the organization that we're in, which is the team. You know? And as you say, even in running the country is the same. You can't be having people from the same party saying something different, you know?
Yeah.
We agree on this. Others say, oh yeah, we are for the land grab, or we are for compensation, land without compensation, or and he said, huh? And then others say, no, we're not interested. And he said, but you're from the same party. You know. Yeah. So you excuse the pun. You're from the same party, but you seem to be having a different party. You are just
Different
dancing
teams.
to
Yeah.
yeah.
Marx, how did you actually make the step into going into motivational speaking? How did that happen?
In fact, it happened so very interesting that I was a shy guy who didn't even speak in front of two people, let alone one. You know, and Gary Bailey in 1988, he came back from England, and he came here as a motivational speaker because he was also working for Radio and TV Manchester. And when you got here, he joined us at Kaiser Chiefs, and then he went to various companies as a motivational speaker. But during those days, you can imagine in the 80s also, we didn't have, not too many of us had TV in the country. That was the TV being introduced. So Gary Bailey would talk about his experiences in Manchester, in London, and in different areas, and playing against so and so. And half of the black population would not relate to what he was talking about. And obviously the bosses who have invited him in various companies would relate. But the guys would just be looking at him and thinking, okay, we only know that you play for Chiefs, but what you're talking about, we don't understand. You know? And then he thought the only best way to strike a balance is to get someone whom they can relate to, who can share with them the local stories. And that's how I got into the picture. But then you don't just get someone who is very shy to get into that field. He had to recommend that I go to a school for motivation talks. I went with him, and you won't believe it was 2 years of thorough work. Yeah, and that thorough work paid a lot of difference, or made a lot of difference in the long run. I mean, when I'm talking about taking out the basics, remember, here's someone who's very shy. You obviously have to take out the shyness from him. Secondly, he is thinking in an African language, but he speaks in English. So obviously he's bound to say because he thinks before he says it. So
trying to convert everything.
Yeah. So I was airing everything, and then it took about 9 months to make sure that there is no air in the presentation. And they teach you the tricks of the trade, instead of saying air, when you forgot something, flow with your topic or flow with the subject and say, there was this guy that I was talking to on Africa or South Africa. I'm staying. His name is, that name has just eluded my mind, but I'll get back to you on that name later. Oh, later while you're talking, and that name that eluded my mind is Jared, the guy that I was thinking of. That kind of a thing. So you keep everyone interested.
Yeah.
Because you are flowing. Yeah. Instead of saying, but this name is
once the pressure's on you. And then you forget your own name.
You are desperately searching for that name, you're never going to get it. But when you flow, that name will come later. But here's the interesting thing. Those were the days when one could get away with the air. But nowadays it's even worse. You can't be doing the airs because once you start saying you're losing one, you're losing two. Why are you losing? You're losing them to social media.
Yeah.
Before you know, the guys are on Twitter or on WhatsApp, or they're recording you, and then it's already circulating before you even leave the stage. You say, this guy forgets everything.
Oh, God.
There's a clown in front of us here. He forgets everything.
So
that's how.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's how I got into it. And we worked together until such time when we stopped working together, or unless if the client wants the two of us. And for that, I'm still thankful to him, because it made a big difference. It changed my life. In fact, it awoken the passion that I wasn't aware of.
Mm. That's amazing, and it's such a nice passion to have, because not only are you fulfilling your dream or this thing that you're so passionate about, but you're also instilling passion in other people, and I think it's a great reward to be able to affect somebody else's life in a positive way.
Yeah, in fact, you're talking about other people. People don't realize that also when you do this job, I've noticed in many ways of my life stories, when you are a motivational speaker, while you're motivating people, you end up motivating yourself. And sometimes, even if you're thinking negative of something, you think, I can't be the one doing this because I have just said this to people, because we're all human. We do have our ups and downs.
Yeah.
And during the downs, I always remember what I say to people. And I'm thinking, now I've got to walk the talk.
Yeah.
I must practice what I've been saying, what I've been preaching. So that also has helped a lot. But the interesting thing is, it's not even about me. It's the people that comes to me and say, thank you. Jared, it makes such a big difference. And I took that for granted, but not until more than 2 people coming to me out of the blue and say, thank you. There's this other day when you said this, and that, and it made a big difference, And there's a guy I'll never forget for the rest of my life. His name is Maponyane. And I will say Maponyane because I will never forget at all. This guy, I was invited at Bioko to speak to the inmates. And I spoke to them all. And I remember my closing line. And my closing line was, I don't care now why you're here. It's immaterial. Whether you were right or you were wrong. But you were at the right place at the wrong time, or maybe with the wrong company. And that is why you're here. And the advantage of you being here is that it gave you a message to take stock of yourselves. You could have died, but God is giving you another chance. So take advantage of that. Know who the right people to be with. And remember, the first right person to be with is yourself. You can't rely on other people for happiness. Rely on yourself.
Yeah.
And I would like you to take advantage of this 15, 10 years, whatever sentence you have, whatever number, but take advantage of it. Go to the admin office, ask for the forms, fill in the forms, join UNISA, join any university, make sure that you study something, make a difference. Jared, you won't believe, 2 years later, I was driving down Fortsbeck. And I was parking at this particular sports shop. And this guy knocked on the window of my car. No, I'm coming out. And I thought, okay, I'm coming out because I might be hijacked. Nicely, but calm. But because the guy was edgy. When you rob, you can either be edgy or also be comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You want the more comfortable, I guess.
This guy, and I'm thinking, this guy is edgy. Okay, let me go out. And when I got out, the guy just hugged me and he cried. I thought, what?
Sure.
And he said to me, Max, thank you. So what did I do? He said, my name is Maponyane. You came to look up, you said this, and that. On that day after you had left, I went to the admin office, and the following day they called me in and I filled up of every form and I was admitted at UNISA. And this is my last year. And I'm on, by the way, I am out on parole.
Wow.
So this is my last year. I am full time with UNISA. Thank you. How's that?
Wow.
I will never forget that story. I thought, wow, this is unreal. The power of words. You say that, and I always say, you can speak to 20 people, 200 people, but there will always be that 2%, 10% that will carry the message or that will change the lives. You can't change everybody. Remember, people think you are there to change them, but I'm not there to change people. I'm there to share with people what they could do if they want to change themselves. You can change yourself. Nobody's going to change you. Just like what we always say as parents. I can only bring you to this world and teach you about life, but I can't live this life for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And those are the things that one has learned over the years. Bringing up boys, you're always worried because, you know, with boys, there are more chances of ending up in jail than anywhere else, you know? But when they grow older and older and you think, is this guy now on drugs? What is this guy up to? You try to be vigilant. You always check on them all the time, you know? And not until you're comfortable, you know? But as much as you're comfortable, don't lose sight of them, because children will always be yours, even when they're older. When you lose sight of them, that's when you will always say, oh, I didn't know that he was doing this. I didn't know that. You know, you must always be on top of things. Always make sure you know, you know, make sure you know. Yeah, yesterday, my youngster sent a tweet because he's also self-isolated at his place. And he sent a tweet and said, I had to get plumbers for an emergency. I had a pulp burst. And I responded to his tweet. You know, I said, welcome to the real world. Now you're becoming a man. Now you don't worry about us serving you. You have to now work for yourself, you know. And he was just laughing because I responded to his tweet. So I'm just always saying to them, I'm always going to show interest even when you're older, because even when you're older, you're still my children anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you never stop being a child.
Yeah, somebody can call you dad, but you're still my child.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the things that makes one proud, as you were saying, as a motivational speaker, where you get the feedback. Yeah. And sometimes you're not going to get them all because other people don't know where to reach you.
Yeah.
But you have made a difference somewhere, and hopefully one has made a lot of difference everywhere.
Yeah. Marks, I've loved chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. If you have a message that you'd like to leave our viewers with, any message?
Yeah, the message is very simple. One day at a time, take it easy. Don't be frustrated. I know a lot of you are always thinking, is there going to be an extension? How long is this going to? Nobody will tell you how long this is going to last. So don't ask for impossible from the ministers. They will not give you the answers. In fact, my message to you is, it's going to last for as long as you respect that lockdown. Once you respect the lockdown, it will last not as long as it will when you don't respect it. So keep respecting the lockdown and wait for all the positive messages or all the messages coming from above. The president will be talking to us shortly. I know that.
Fantastic, Marks. Listen, thank you so much again for your time. I've really enjoyed it. I'll chat to you soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Jared, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Bye.